Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a special discussion for Saturday, December 16th, 2023, for a significant coastal storm that's going to be impacting the entire northern mid-Atlantic, really the entire East Coast. Yes, it's true. Not much in the way of snow, basically no snow in this storm, but still a major impact that's going to produce some very heavy rainfall starting tomorrow, continuing on through Monday morning, just in time for that Monday morning rush hour. So it's best to get the data out and prepare accordingly. Currently, on our surface map from WeatherTap, you can see our high pressure system is exiting. We still have some lingering polar Pacific air that's hanging around the region. And we also have our storm that's starting to organize. Now, this comes in multiple parts here right now. We have our storm developing in the subtropical jet stream. This is from a Pacific shortwave. And then way up here, we have our polar air mass. And our jet streams are split right now, but they're starting to phase together. And so as a result, with all of that lifting and processing happening, we're starting to see convection thunderstorms really explode in the Gulf of Mexico, getting ready to organize over Florida. Very heavy rainfall, some embedded thunderstorms, very heavy rainfall organizing here in the upper Midwest, down towards the Tennessee River Valley and mid Mississippi River Valley, and then down towards the Gulf Coast as well. When we take a look at the infrared satellite picture, a lot is going on here. We're seeing explosive development of convection in the Gulf of Mexico. And this tells us that the primary low pressure system is going to be organizing towards the coast, towards the Gulf Coast, and then towards the North Carolina coast, because this is where all your lifting is happening. While that's happening, we're also starting to see our shortwave from the Pacific starting to interact with this whole setup here. And it shows up very nicely here on our upper level winds. Now, when we take a look at this right here, this is called divergence and diffluence. See how it's kind of fanning out? So when you're having that fanning out process, you're having air rapidly rise. And so that's why we're seeing convection really explode. But we also know because of this process that that's going to lead to your strongest lifting and strongest height falls at 500 millibars, 700 millibars, and so on along the coastal plain, along the southeast coast specifically, but eventually along the mid-Atlantic coast as well. Meanwhile, here is our polar shortwave back here. Now, this shortwave is originating from the Pacific, so it has a Pacific air mass behind it. Where's the polar air? It's way up here with this shortwave here and this shortwave here, with the polar air trapped up in Canada. Eventually, it will interact with this storm after it leaves, which leads to the potential maybe for a few snow showers and snow flurries by the time we get to Tuesday, which I'll touch on in a moment. In the meantime, this setup here clearly shows that we're about to set off a major storm that has the potential to rapidly intensify, pressures rapidly fall. If you're starting to feel like you have a headache, you have your sinuses starting to hurt you, this is why, because the atmosphere is changing. And because of that, you're feeling the pressure starting to change as well. In the meantime, you could also look at the 500 millibar map on the SPC. Now, what is this telling you? Well, you have your strong shortwave here from the Pacific, and then you have your shortwaves here from the subtropical jet stream. And you see all this bagginess here? This tells me that heights are really starting to fall along the coast here. And so this tells me this is where we're most likely going to start to get our organization setting up in the atmosphere. And that shows up really nicely here on the water vapor satellite picture. One of the greatest tools that I love to use is the water vapor satellite picture, because you can really see all the features here. Now, obviously, I've been saying, hey, look, there's a lot of strong lifting here. Convection is really blown up. But if you really want to get an idea of just how strong lifting is, just look at the substance behind it. Remember, there's always a balance, right? So what rises must sink. And we have some really impressive sinking air setting up here over the western Gulf of Mexico and around the Texas coast here. So this tells us that if we're seeing this much sinking, we have to also see very strong lifting here. That also corresponds with this shortwave coming in and starting to merge. So we get to see the whole storm set up. And while that's happening, we're seeing the moisture transport also starting to surge northward. So you might be wondering, where is the polar air? It's up here. Now, this is right here a polar Pacific air mass. This that's leaving us was a modified polar air mass that is leaving rapidly. That's why it's been much warmer compared to yesterday. So all your polar air, and really you could also bring up Arctic air back here, is waiting in the wings, but it's not going to get pulled southward until this feature right here lifts up and reaches about, say, the Gulf of Maine. So once it gets to about here, it's going to pull down all this cold air southward. So if you're wondering why it's not happening now, is because the interaction of these short waves are not timed properly because of the current state of the pattern that we're in, which is in a MJO phase 4 or 5. If you've been following along for the past couple of days, weeks, we've been talking about that MJO state in the live chat. This is a factor of that. This is a feature of that where we get that separation where the storm comes through, then the cold air comes in. But just a little bit of a preview that won't be lasting for too much longer and might be quite different by the time we get to, oh, I don't know, New Year's Day. So we'll keep an eye on that. More on that as we go on through the week. And of course, for premium members, we'll talk about that tomorrow night. In terms of the precipitable water values, this is a lot of deep tropical moisture and it is all surging northward very, very quickly. So we have the tropical moisture that's going to be lifting northward, and that's going to enhance our precipitable water values. And what that means for us is a lot of rainfall. So let's take a look at some of the model data here. Now, this is the upper level winds by the time we get to Monday morning. Okay, and you see this divergence and diffluence is spreading out. What concerns me, again, at 250 millibars, you have this jet streak driving into the coastal plain, transporting moisture out here from the Atlantic into the Jersey Shore. You also have that same jet streak showing up here at 850 millibars. In this case, while I do expect wind gusts, I'm not entirely concerned with that happening further inland. Certainly along the coast is going to be a threat. Definitely over the coastal waters, some of that mixing down. But because of the nature of the atmosphere that we're in, with a little bit of an inversion, I think that's going to limit the complete mixing down of those strong winds. But it also is going to create a fire hose of heavy precipitation that's going to march up the coast. Now, the good news, and part of this is because of the blocking that we have in place in our pattern, or lack of, should I say, this storm's going to be moving pretty quickly. So this whole fire hose event is going to be moving very fast. And so that's going to limit your rainfall amounts to a degree. It's still going to be very impressive. We take a look at the lifting here. Again, very strong lifting coming in, increasing on Sunday, tomorrow, and then reaching a peak around midnight, and then lifting northward as we head into Monday morning. Same thing at 700 millibars and at 850 millibars. So notice the 850 millibar low, once it gets northward and shifts towards the St. Lawrence River Valley, that's when we start to get our cold air come in. And that's when we are going to watch this shortwave right here on Monday night into Tuesday with an unstable atmosphere and this shortwave rotating through it. It could pop off a few snow flurries and snow showers. Nothing that is significantly impressive, but still enough to keep an eye on as we move on through the Monday evening into Tuesday time period. The warm air. Why am I showing this? Well, you see this warmth along the coast at 925 millibars and 850 millibars. That's basically because of our jet streak. And because of that, that increase in warm air at the mid levels is why we're going to see an increase of moisture in the atmosphere and heavy rainfall. That quickly pulls away. And again, you can see on Tuesday morning, that cold air really drives in. And that's why we have that potential for a few snow flurries in this storm at the very end. Maybe an inch in the highest elevations on grass. That's about it, though. But what I'm really concerned about is this signal here with the precipitable water values. This would suggest some very heavy rainfall, 1 inch per hour type rainfall events. So it's something that we're definitely going to keep an eye on along the coast. It's going to lead to some localized flash flooding and urban flooding. The good news again is the speed of this storm. Notice by the time we get to Monday afternoon, we get some strong drying. So The Monday evening rush hour looks to be vastly improved with clearing skies. Again, maybe an isolated rain or snow shower here and there, but overall, the heaviest rain is going to clear out. So it looks like the worst impacts are going to be from Sunday afternoon, late Sunday afternoon, continuing on through the evening hours into the overnight hours, and continuing on into the morning rush hour and clearing out. One thing that we will be watching out for is see this dry slot here is associated with the 700 millibar low. If it tracks right along the coast, we might get a little bit of break of that rainfall along the immediate coast, but still continuing over the interior. If this is a little bit further east, everyone continues on with that heavy rainfall. So this is how this storm looks. You can see it coming in on Sunday morning, you're okay. Sunday, as you move through the day on Sunday, the shower threat increases, becoming widespread by the afternoon, becoming heavy towards the evening, very heavy rainfall in the overnight hours into the early morning hours on Monday. Again, Monday morning rush hour, it looks pretty ugly. And that low pressure system lifts northward, and by Monday afternoon, it clears out with some lingering isolated snow flurries here and there after that. In terms of the wind gusts, again, I like the idea of the strongest wind gusts over the coastal waters, more so than over the coast, but still, wind gusts ranging 30 to 50 miles per hour definitely possible. You got all that heavy rainfall, so definitely the potential for downed trees in this threat, and also some poor conditions in terms of visibility. I just also want to bring up the NAM here. As always, the NAM couple runs out from a storm usually produces some unrealistic precipitation totals. It's kind of backed off since the 18Z, and the reason why we're seeing that in terms of some spikes in the precipitation amounts is because of a little bit of convective feedback here. We have some signals here of thunderstorms within the precipitation shield. You can't 100% rule it out, but I don't think this is a widespread threat. I think most locations are around that 2 to 4 inches, but if there's an embedded thunderstorm here, yeah, you could get that 5 inch amount, but that's really hard to pinpoint. And most of that is driven off of this signal right here around the 700 millibar low. And again, the exact position and track of this feature could lead to this being out in the Atlantic and not even a threat, or marching right along the coastal plain. But for the most part, I think the idea of a 2 to 4 inch rainfall event is what is expected. So again, that's pretty much the expectation here. This is the impact map that's been out for premium members since, well, the past 3 days or so. And again, the general idea, 2 to 4 inches of rain starting tomorrow around noon, continuing on through 4 p.m. on Monday. The morning rush hour looks really ugly on Monday morning. If you have plans, I would say Sunday morning, you're okay. Tomorrow morning, you're okay. Tomorrow afternoon starts to go downhill. Tomorrow evening, just get indoors. It's going to be rough. It's going to be heavy rain, poor visibility, strong wind gusts. Continue on through Monday morning. Give yourself some extra time to get to work on Monday morning, and then much better on Monday evening. But temperatures will be falling pretty steadily here. So your high temperatures on Monday are going to be basically around 6 a.m. with temperatures in the 60s. By the time you head home, you're going to be falling through the 40s and into the 30s. So certainly be prepared for that as well. Again, coastal flooding is a threat along the coast here, about 2 to 4 feet above normal. So definitely the potential here for some moderate, possibly even some major coastal flooding as the storm moves through, with easterly winds around 10 to 20 miles per hour with gusts between 30 and 50 miles per hour. That is your video discussion for today. I hope I answered all your questions with this storm. We'll continue to keep an eye on it and do updates throughout the day tomorrow as the storm evolves in case anything unusual begins to develop, but none are expected. Have a wonderful evening, and as always, stay safe out there.